Unless we start being realistic about how good some of these players genuinely are, that it's never going to improve.
Wolves 2, Manchester United 0. Another loss for Manchester United. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. How are we this bad?
Well, like we've said all year, we don't score goals because we got nilled again. I don't know if you realise that. But what we could kind of rely on, at least for the early part of the season, was like, and people are going to totally disagree with me here, but it's factual, so figure it out yourselves. Onana was good at the start of the year. Last couple of weeks, he's not been good. And because he's now making errors that are directly leading to goals and not saving stuff that he would have saved, the results are getting quite horrendous.
It is really horrendous, though, isn't it? We're closer to the relegation zone than we are to the top four. We're 5 points ahead of Everton, and they've got a game in hand on us, and they are definitely in a relegation fight. Without being sarcastic or pushing it too far, are you worried that we might get sucked into a relegation fight? Genuinely?
No, I don't think we're going to get sucked into a relegation fight. But you can't deny the situation that we find ourselves in is as bad as it's ever been. Certainly in the Premier League era. I started going matches in 1990. I don't remember the 1989 season where I think at one point United and City were like 18th and 19th in the league. Are we trying to bring back them days? Is that what we're trying to do? Are we thinking let's keep the derby going when they get relegated next year and we'll just keep playing them because it's our favourite game? Is that what we want to do?
It seems like it, doesn't it? When fans said to Ineos, we want it to be like it used to be, we didn't mean 1974. We meant fucking 2008. Like, no, it's like I've never seen us this bad. It's literally every single game we play, we find a way to lose. What can be done here? Because I'm genuinely worried that, and I think I'm seeing a lot of good things from the manager and the style and the tactics. I get all that, and I like him and I back him. I'm worried that if we finish this season somewhere in the region of where we are now, Ineos might give him the old Dan Ashworth treatment. Is that a concern for you? How does this turn around at some point?
No, I think that they've got to give this manager a bit more time. For themselves more than anybody else. I think that they have to give this manager time. They've gone all in on this guy. Now, I think in the long term, I think his systems and style and that will probably be having the team play, and once he gets the players he requires, which I know we've said that so many times, but also managers have not had the players that they wanted to fulfill the plans that they wanted either, so you can keep saying it until it happens. If he's given the tools to do the job, I believe he will get this team playing to a better standard than what Ten Hag got him to. But when you look at the results this last 2 months, you think, would Ten Hag have done as bad with these? I think short term, probably not. Long term, could you see him getting to the level that I can see him getting Amorim to? And I think ultimately no. I think the only thing we can do is hope that Christmas starts on the 1st of January and we actually get some presents and some players that can play in the sort of roles and responsibilities that we're looking for to fill in the team. Because on one hand, I get that Amorim wants to play a specific way and he's gone, we're going to learn how to play this way and we're going to probably bollocks it up on the way to getting to playing this way of playing. But it's going to happen quicker if he gets people who are capable of doing what's required of him. I think there's a lot of square pegs in round holes at the moment. I think there's a lot of players who probably just plain and simple not good enough. The worrying thing is, I would argue out, and some people might argue otherwise, but I would argue outside of De Ligt, that was probably our strongest 11 that we're capable of fielding today. I think it's the sort of 11 where no one looks at that and goes, oh my God, where's... That's pretty much the best we can put out. So, and I think Maguire's a perfect stand-in in terms of what you get out of De Ligt. So, like, there's no major dramas in terms of what we've got available to put out on the pitch. We put it out. So, unless we start being realistic about how good some of these players genuinely are, that it's never going to improve. But you've got to get And ultimately, I hope the manager's doing this. I hope the manager's looking at people and going, okay, this is who I can work with. This is who I can't work with. These are the positions that I need someone bringing in. These are the players who I think can do it, and go get them. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
If you're not going to buy the guy the tools he needs to do the job, you might as well just left Eric in charge, or you might as well have left Rude in charge, or you might as well just fucking rock up on the sideline, do your level 1 and do it your fucking self. Like, there's no point in hiring people and then not giving them the tools to actually compete. When you look at the likes of Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth and Fulham, they're doing well in the league, probably way above the expectations, certainly above the expectations for the money that they've spent on the squad that they've got. But the reason that they're doing well is because they've got players that are playing to the system that manager wants to play them to. You know, even Wolves today, like, we didn't lay a fucking glove on Wolves. But also they competed and we didn't compete. They was winning duels and they was winning their individual battles that we weren't fucking winning.
And is that a purely personnel thing, or are we hitting that kind of crossroads or that Venn diagram where you've got players who aren't good enough, who now aren't trying enough, or who maybe aren't doing exactly what the manager says because it hurts their lungs when they have to make that extra sprint? Are you worried that we're not fully seeing the effort as well as the quality now as well? Because for me, I think these players aren't good enough, but they're better than this. You know, a lot of these players finished third 18 months ago. Why is it so low? Are you worried that there's maybe not as much buy-in with the manager, or do you think that that's just these results are going to happen?
No, I think what happens is statistics and opinions about statistics and correlations and causations are such a broad and complex topic. People want sound bites, and you can't give sound bites when you're trying to look at these things, but trying to speak broadly. Like, it's the same thing. Like, most managers do nothing in terms of a team's performance. You have the outliers who can tank a team's performance and the outliers who can raise a team's performance. And people in the comments who don't understand that point will be like, well, what about fucking... There's outliers. Shut the fuck up, right? Go and understand what those words mean and then come back. When a team is performing, a team wins and loses not on how good its best players are, but on how bad its worst players are. So mistakes is what costs football matches. And what we've got at the moment is a team that is trying to learn a new system. When you learn in a new system, you're going to make mistakes that you wouldn't have ordinarily made. You're going to make passes, assumptions, presses, markings, things that are wrong and might not, to our eye, look like mistakes, but because the manager's playing chess with all the different pieces at the same time, he might identify what you did there was wrong. And it might require the player being shown in video to understand it. And we'll never understand it because we'll never be given the insight to understand the why behind why Delo should have pressed this person but didn't, or didn't press this person and should have done. We're never going to get that nuance. We have to judge from the stuff that we get, and then we have to look at the result and go, well, ultimately the result wasn't good enough. Now, that's easier to do with things like what Onana's done the last couple of weeks, where you go, he's got to be better than that. Like, I don't need the nuance of any chance of stopping that going in the net, mate. Like, that's far easier for us to recognise. I don't need it for Bruno Fernandes doing daft shit. I mean, Bruno just doesn't win duels, so why the fuck is he trying to kick people all over the place? Like, Ugarte wins probably 90+% of all the duels that he's involved in. Tackle machine. If he ever gets sent off for 2 yellows for smashing into someone, I'll shake his hand if I spot him and say, well done. Because the net benefit of him tackling is always going to be better than the occasional time that he ends up getting sent off because he's done too much fucking tackling. Now, I think they mentioned Vidic has been sent off 3 times once in a season. Guess what? That's how Nemanja Vidic played, and you was here for it when he did it, because he would fucking muller people 9 times out of 10, and sometimes he'd step over the line. Bruno Fernandes is a shit tackler. He's shit in duels. He doesn't win enough duels for us to put up with the fact that he's getting these petulant little fucking second yellows and red cards over absolute whipple. He needs to take that out of his fucking game. What brought you to the dance? Chance creation and goals. Cool, do that. Leave the tackling to the fucking rest of them, shall we? And stay on the pitch. Because we was in that game, as boring and shit as it was, until he went off. And then from that moment, there was only one team going to fucking win that, and it weren't Manchester United.
No.
Bullshit. The mistakes is what's killing us, mate.
Yeah, it is. And in terms of obviously looking at solutions to those mistakes, some of it's personnel and form, and you know, Bruno doesn't always get sent off, although he has been sent off 3 times this season, 2 times correctly. The likes of Rashford and Garnacho, who I know Garnacho's back in the squad, but he's not been put back in the team. Do you think there's going to be a point where we kind of need them back? Because I know Rashford's been poor, and obviously something's going on outside of his performances, because I don't think it's a purely tactical thing, but he is capable of scoring. How does that dynamic carry on if we keep not scoring and keep losing games? Do you think the pressure mounts on Amorim to bring him back in?
It might do. I think ultimately, look, I said in the summer, and I said in a video probably about 6 or 7 weeks ago, that I would sell Rashford, right? I would do. I think that the right thing for the club to do is to move him on. Now, that was prior to Amorim coming in. Now Amorim's in, there isn't a natural place for him in this system, and I've always had I had the same thing with Maguire. When Maguire wasn't playing, when we played a back two, why would you keep someone with the status that they've got and the wages that they're on? Because it upsets the apple cart. You need a clear hierarchy in changing rooms. This guy plays and he gets paid the same way. Now, you might think, oh, they're all professional, they should just be able to get over that. And I agree with you, and they should. But they don't, right? They're human beings, and a lot of them have got fucking egos, and they've got agents that'll cause shit. So I don't think you can have people in a changing room on the sort of money that Casemiro, Rashford, Maguire, fucking Anthony are if they're not playing. If they're playing fine and they're contributing fine, that's not a drama. Like you can argue that Rashford, you can't argue it because it's just not true. Rashford is not worth the same as Mo Salah, but he's on Mo Salah money. Now, whoever's decision it was to award that contract, it is what it is. If he was performing like Mo Salah, no one would give a Frenchman's fuck how much he earns at all. People would be like, I think we should pay him more, actually. I think he's that fucking good. But he's not. So when he's not, and the club's in a situation where it's trying to scalp fucking 8-year-old 66 quid for a fucking ticket rise, or they're taking the squad to Malaysia at the end of the season because they're grabbing for a couple of fucking million, when you've got players on 300, 350 grand a week, such as Casemiro, such as Marcus Rashford, the club's going to move heaven and earth to fuck them off. Because they're clearly in a state of maximise how much money we've got coming in. I mean, they're trying to rebuild Old Trafford or knock the fucker down and build a new one. You're not getting change out of 2 billion with a B out of that. How fucking much do you think tickets are going to be? Now, as this is all coming down the pipeline, the 200 and odd redundancies, the cutting in half of Christmas bonuses, the fucking scalping of kids' tickets, like the reselling of mine and your tickets if we can't fucking go to a game. Now it's gone from 41 quid. You best be paying 250 quid. It's fucking touting on an industrial scale that's sanctioned by the fucking club in the Premier League. It's ridiculous. You can't look at the way this football club is run at the moment and think that they're not going to try and penny pinch. Now, at the same time, I hope that they're trying to bring in some smart transfers and maximise every pound we can spend in the transfer market. Otherwise, we are up shit's creek big time. Now, if they're able to do that, if they're able to say, okay, let's cut Casemiro, let's cut Marcus Rashford, let's try and get fucking a Twix and a bag of quavers back in for Anthony, and let's try and put this into some 18 to 23-year-olds that we genuinely believe in, that we've scouted the fucking cock off, and then we know that they're going to come in and do bits, then sound, right? We can move with that, and we can hopefully have the sort of regeneration and surprise package season that you see in the likes of Forest having at the moment. Forest, Bournemouth, fucking all these teams are doing a madness. Fulham even, they're doing bits with players deemed not good enough for Manchester United. Now, not entirely, but all of those players, like Joe Rothwell's at Bournemouth, I think, still. You've got Pereira at Fulham. You've got Alanga at Forest. You've got these teams being propped up by former Manchester United players that were deemed fucking... I mean, Joe Rothwell especially was deemed so far away from being first team level at Manchester United. Yet here he is, sitting how far above us in the table. Like, you could go and do a relegation draft, and we should even maybe do it for a video in a couple of weeks. Do a relegation form draft and look at the bottom 10 teams, which you obviously got to include us in now. And you can improve Manchester United by going to any of those teams in the bottom half of the table. And you would improve us by magnitudes, I think, if you went and did a draft from the bottom half of the table.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? The situation we find ourselves in and the mismanagement that's got us to this point, it is going to take a long time to turn around. Do you think it's going to... I know we always hear it's going to get worse before it gets better. Is this it getting worse, or can you see it getting even worse than this?
Well, we're not winning either of the next 2 fucking games, are we, mate? So
That's true. That's probably true.
Well, not are we?
We've got Liverpool after that.
So what is it? It's Newcastle, Liverpool, right?
Yeah, and then we've got Arsenal away in the FA Cup as well, somewhere in there.
Okay, so not winning the next 3 games, right? So do I think it's going to get better before it gets worse, or is it going to get worse before it gets better? I think you know the fucking answer, mate.
I think we should leave it there. Cheers, Steve. Thank you to everyone for joining us at home. Manchester United have lost again. Wolves 2, Man United 0. We'll see in a bit.